Good evening and welcome to Community Theater Review. Tonight's episode, Meet the Performers. I'm your host, Gail Lewis, and tonight join me as we meet the performers. On keyboards, we've got Paul Johnson. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. And sitting next to me, I'm very, very impressed. I know he's looking around already. Very impressed and very excited to have Jimmy O'Neill here with me as well. Welcome, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Actor, singer, waiter on the side?
No, I've never actually done that. I've done a lot of other things.
Usually those things go together. So good evening, gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us tonight on Community Theater Review. What you played us in with, Anything Goes. Have you played Anything Goes? Have you?
Just did it this summer in Richmond Hill with the Holy Child Jesus Teen Drama Club.
And that was exciting?
It was great. The kids did an amazing job.
Yeah.
All of them.
Awesome. And I'm wondering if you guys can collaborate for us right now. Perhaps if you would, Jimmy, join Paul and sing for us.
Oh, all right.
If ever I would leave you from Camelot. Thank you, gentlemen.
If ever I would leave you, it wouldn't be in summer. Seeing you in summer, I never would go. Your hair streaked with sunlight, your lips red as flame, your face with a luster that puts gold to shame. But if I'd ever leave you, it wouldn't be in autumn. How I'd leave in autumn, I never would know. I've seen how you sparkle when fall nips the air. I know you in autumn, and I must be there. And could I leave you running merrily through the snow, or on a wintry evening when you catch the fire's glow? If ever I would leave you, it couldn't be in springtime, knowing how in spring I'm bewitched by you so. Oh no, not in springtime, summer, winter, or fall. No, never could I leave you at all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Great job.
That was actually the first time I ever auditioned for anything. Paul and I had this ridiculous conversation about, what do you know? I don't know. Well, what do you know? Because I had never done I'd done like one musical in high school before that. So.
Really?
Yeah, that was a good way to start things.
We had the same conversation tonight. So.
Yeah. Deja vu.
Exactly.
Have you performed in Camelot?
I just recently, actually, with Berry Productions, over at All Saints Church in Bayside, we did a concert version of Camelot in May. May.
Concert version for our viewers is?
Yes. It was basically so we didn't have to spend too much money on costumes and sets. We did a version of the show that was, we had a narrator who did some describing of what was going on, and we had some of the lines and most of the songs from the show, or all the songs from the show. So it was, you know.
All the music, all the excitement without the expense.
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically.
And not all of the scenes, so
right.
It's a cut-down version.
Awesome. And where have we seen you before, other than
Me?
maybe
All
other
over the
than
place.
the post office? But seriously,
Always
Paul,
gotten around.
you're a composer. Where we've seen you, I've read your resume. It just reads for pages and pages and pages.
That's because I don't remember what I've done. That's why it's all there on those 8 pages. No, I've been in New York for about 30 years now, and over those 30 years, I've music directed about 182 different shows. So.
Right here in New York, in the New York City area.
In the New York City area, and in regional theaters around the country a little bit. But that's just a musical direction. I've played other shows as well too. But I've had about at least six of my shows done in Manhattan, off Broadway. So I guess you could say and a couple of those shows have been done in Florida, Texas, and Australia, of all strange places. Yeah.
And speaking of strange places, I'll just not even. Speaking of strange places, well, unusual places maybe off the beaten path. I know that you have been to Cambodia.
Yes.
And that there was Where Elephants Weep and Cambodia and you. So tell us about Where Elephants Weep in Cambodia.
Well, they billed it as the world premiere of a Khmer rock opera, and actually.
So it was a rock opera.
Well, actually, it was the second showing because we premiered it in Lowell, Massachusetts, a year and a half before that.
And when was this that you were in Cambodia?
Cambodia was in Cambodia in the fall and winter of 2008.
Okay.
And I was the conductor because the musical director himself took the title musical supervisor because he had just had his second child and couldn't leave his wife with their two kids at home for 7 weeks while he was having so much fun in Cambodia. So he said, "Why don't you conduct it? I'll take the title musical supervisor." And I was like, "Okay." So it was just one of those things. It was a very unusual experience. We had an 11-piece orchestra that was separated by a city block. Because half the orchestra that I was conducting, I had 5 rock musicians in front of me, and the 6 traditional instrumentalists were on the opposite side of the theater.
So was the space just not big enough to hold everyone?
Well, the space
or did they want to be separate because they were two different types of orchestras?
That was the design, was that, you know, they were trying to bridge the gap, as it were. So it was a fusion piece because it had rock, it had rap, it had traditional, it had pop songs.
And it had elephants.
And no, fortunately, we didn't have one. However, they did rent an elephant to stand out in front of the theater on opening night with this huge draping across its back with pictures of the actors and the title of the opera on it. So it was an amazing experience up there.
So they had all of these different genres of music together. How did that mix? And then, of all places, Cambodia.
It mixed quite well.
How was it received by the locals?
I think it was received really, really well. They actually filmed it by, Cambodian National Television filmed us doing the opera over 2 or 3 performances, so they, you know, mixed it in, whatever. And then broadcast. We had opened on Thanksgiving Day. Of course, in Cambodia, Thanksgiving doesn't mean anything. But we actually found a restaurant in Cambodia that on the Monday that we had our first break after the show opened, about 2 dozen of us went and had turkey dinner. And one of the producers actually had pumpkin pie brought to the theater on Thanksgiving Day for opening day. So it's like, okay, we got a little bit of Thanksgiving in Phnom Penh.
Halfway across the world.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Exactly.
I love that.
But we had left after we had performed the opera, and then they had broadcast our first broadcast of the opera on Christmas Day. But because of the way the opera represented the Buddhist monkhood in the context of the show, the head of the Supreme Council of the Buddhist monks in Cambodia wrote a letter of protest to the government and got our New Year's Day broadcast banned.
Wow.
We were banned in Cambodia after we left the country.
Wow.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, but it's a very interesting piece, and unfortunately it's such a huge undertaking with the rock musicians and the traditional musicians, because the traditional musicians played about 4 to 6 instruments a piece.
Oh.
And some of them had to rebuild the instruments because their instruments were not built for that kind of a score.
Wow.
So it was a tremendous undertaking, and it was just amazing.
Has it been performed outside of Massachusetts and that time in...
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
That was the last time we had performed it, was the last time I think it was performed, so.
So you'll get some funding and we'll see it in the spring?
It'd be nice to pull the whole crew together again, because it was an amazing, amazing piece.
And Jimmy, how did you come to the theater? You're an actor, you're a singer, you're a singing actor. When did you know and how did you get here?
When did I know? I knew when I was in 3rd grade. I was 8 years old and I was watching Robin Williams on TV, on Mork and Mindy.
Mork and Mindy.
Not that I'm not that old. But and I did the the old it's the light bulb joke. How many actors does it take to screw in a light bulb? One to screw it in, 99 to say I could have done that. I basically I was like I could do that.
That meaning acting, as you saw Robin Williams.
Yeah, I was like I could do that. I do that all the time.
And you were all
still
of
do.
8.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's when I decided, and then of course as I grew up, I changed my mind, then changed it back. And then when I was in high school, I did some shows, and when I was in...
What was your first show? Do you recall?
Yes.
Wow, what's that?
Because in high school, this is I actually just did a class about this the other day. The first show I did in high school was a show called I Had a Ball.
I Had a Ball.
It
Where'd
was
you
a
go to high school?
musical, Francis Lewis High School.
Okay,
it
shout
was,
out.
It was a show that was on Broadway in 1964. It starred Buddy Hackett and Richard Kiley, and ran for 199 performances. Before Buddy Hackett decided he wanted to take his 2 weeks off, and they were like, no, you can't leave, we need someone to replace you, and he got into a fist fight with the producer, who was an amateur boxer, knocked him out, he walked off, show closed. But it's a great musical, and we were the first people that, as far as I know, we might be the only production that had ever done it after it closed, because my drama teacher went around calling Samuel French and Drama Display Service, MTI, you called all these people, and they were like, you have to call the playwright, Jerome Chodoroff. He owns the rights.
Right.
And so he called him, and he was thrilled that somebody remembered it, and we did it.
That anybody wanted to do it. Right. Did you play the Buddy Hackett role?
I did not. Oh, no, I did not. The director thought of having me play that, but I was a tenor, so I played the tenor role, which was a great role. And I would actually love to do a production of it, hint, hint,
Into the camera.
for the 50th anniversary that's coming up.
50th anniversary of...
Of its Broadway run.
Okay.
Wow.
In 1964.
So next year.
Its 50th anniversary is coming up next year. I would love to do a production of that, because I've always wanted to do a production of it, because I love it.
Let's do.
Bring it back.
You denied me once.
Resuscitate.
And then college, I started working in the theater department at
Where did you go to college?
Queensboro. I was still a high school student, and I started working on the productions, and a professor
You started
there.
working at Queensboro when you were still at Francis Lewis.
No, I was a truant in high school. So I started going to the New York City Vocational Training Center. Instead of going to school, you went to work.
Okay.
And they had 30 sites at the time around the city. One of them was Queensboro. And because I was the first student that my teacher there, he was like, you're the first person to come in here who knows what they want to do. He was childhood friends with the then chairperson of the department, so he got me in there.
Nice.
And I actually started working in the theater department, and then I started working on the shows at night. And we had an emergency rehearsal because our leading actor, we were doing The Foreigner, which is another great show.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with The Foreigner.
Oh.
It's about
Musical theater.
It's not a musical.
It's a
It's
comedy.
straight play. It's comedy. It's a farce.
Comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A great farce. I love farce.
Oh,
It's about this
Egad, it's a cad.
this British officer and his friend who's a sergeant, and his friend wants to, is helping him get away from it all. So they go to Georgia. He knows this woman who runs this boarding house there, and he's like, well, just tell everybody you don't speak English, and then they'll leave you alone. That's why it's called The Foreigner. And our leading actor had walking pneumonia. So our light board op, the person running the lights, had to step in as the understudy. 3 of our actors couldn't make the emergency rehearsal we had, so the stage manager read in one of the roles, and I read in the other 2. One had the Cockney accent, and one had a Georgia accent. I did them exactly the way they did it, with the same blocking, because I'd watched it for like 3 weekends by this point.
Through all of the rehearsals.
And I walked off stage, and the director said to me, what have you got left with your school? Why don't you get your GED or whatever and come here as a theater major? So the rest was history. And I learned every aspect of theater.
At Queensboro.
Starting there, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So did
everything.
you complete Queensboro? What happened next? Hit a chord?
Oh my! Wow, we're really delving into things. On QPTV, no doubt.
Yes,
at the time, incidentally, I also had friends of mine who had gone to school with my sister, who were doing we did half-hour comedy things here on QPTV.
Oh, and that
So
was how
if
long ago?
anyone here who might remember NBS2 from the early 90s, I was this young, skinny one with the long hair.
So you're no stranger to QPTV.
No, I was actually in here wondering where the other half of the studio was when I came in. So that was
now
also
a call center, but go ahead.
Yeah, it was fun actually. So yeah, while I was learning theater at school, I was also doing this stuff for fun.
Yeah.
Every so often, dragging some of my friends into some of the shows too.
Great.
Yeah, and then I left college because I figured I didn't need a theater degree to be an actor. Don't do it. So much I could have done since if I gotten my degree. And I just I tried to do theater.
Theater.
I've done a lot of tech work, backstage and stage managing things, including, speaking of Sean, Paul was talking about shows that he's done in the city. I remember one he worked on. Did you compose Alice in Analysis?
No,
No,
I
you
just
didn't
musical
compose it. You
directed
just did musical
Have you
directing.
guys collaborated? I mean, outside of today, have you guys worked together?
that. We've done a number of shows
Oh
together.
yeah, I've known Paul for, it occurred to me, 19 years.
19 years.
Really?
And
This
the first show you were tech on.
Yeah, the first show we met, I was brought in to run lights for a production of MAME
In Bayside.
in Bayside, that Way Off Broadway. It was Way Off Broadway's last production. They were a community theater group.
Here in Queens, yeah.
Here in Queens. In fact, former councilman Mike Abel was on the board of Way Off Broadway at one point. And when I met him in college, he came down to talk to our acting class. And then we showed him the theater. And because I was the veteran at the time, I showed, I went with he and the, no, I went with him and the then chairperson of the department. And that's when I realized that he was less of a politician than the then chairperson of the department. That's why I voted for him at the time. So that was fun. But yeah, Paul and I have worked on so
Plenty
many
of things
shows.
together over the years.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
last one was Hairspray here in Flushing, and he was Edna.
Yep, right across the street
Really, where?
at Free Synagogue of Flushing.
Oh, okay. Right here. Right here in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Casino
How
Boulevard.
long ago was that? Do you remember?
November of 2011.
Okay.
Was it 2 years ago? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it will be 2 years ago. Yeah.
And I know that you got an undergrad degree in biology. How did you go from there to...
Easy. I went from working with sick people to working with sick people. I traded one operating theater for another. You never heard that before?
Was it an easy jump for you from...
I wound up living in Bowling Green, Ohio for 5 years. And the last 3.5 years I spent as a self-employed accompanist, running from studio to rehearsals to voice studios, playing for whatever people put in front of me. So I learned very quickly how to accompany rather than play piano. Because pianists can play piano, accompany the singer.
Right.
And if you don't breathe and play with them, then it's like, why bother? So I wound up in New York in November of '83. Got my church job up at Community Church of the Pelhams in Pelham, New York, and I've been there ever since. So this November will be my 30-year anniversary there.
Oh, sweet.
And then I've been playing musical theater wherever anybody will hire me.
And he's one of the best musical directors around, actually.
I'll pay you later.
No, it's true though. There's a very short list, and Paul's right in there on the top.
Well, thank you.
Because yeah, like he says,
very generous.
accompanying people is very hard, and he also being a teacher. Now I'm gonna turn this back at you.
Oh dear.
Being teaching at Cap 21, he teaches too. I've learned a lot. I know of other performers who have learned a lot just doing shows with him. It's like you get a great experience of actually, getting to be a better singer just working on a show with him.
Right.
It's incredible.
Well, thank you.
That,
Appreciate that. Like I said, I'll
true.
pay you later.
yeah,
It's very true.
that's very generous. That's a wonderful thing to say. And I'm wondering if you guys can play some more for us right now. Would you do that?
Another
Come to me, bend to me, Brigadoon.
from production I did at FSF, Brigadoon, yeah, many years ago.
Thank you, gentlemen.
See if I remember the lyrics. Because he told me I can't behold thee to wedding music is playing
To ease my longing.
to ease my longing. There's nothing wrong in me standing out here and saying, oh, come to me, bend to me, kiss me good day, darling, my darling, 'tis all I can say. Just come to me, bend to me, kiss me good day. Give me your lips and don't take them away. Come dearie near me so ye can hear me. I've got to whisper this softly, although I'm burning to shout my yearning. The words come tiptoeing off me. Oh, come to me, bend to me, kiss me good day, darling, my darling, 'tis all I can say. Just come to me, bend to me, kiss me good day. Give me your lips and don't take them away.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I've sung that since 1998.
You would never know. You dusted off the vocal cords very well. Thank you so much. Before we went into song, Jimmy had mentioned CAP 21. What do you do there, and what exactly is that?
He's half right. I work at CAP 21, but I don't teach there. I just play for classes there.
And
So,
what is CAP 21?
CAP 21 is a musical theater training studio. We used to be associated with NYU, but we've separated from them 2 years ago. So we're on our own now. And we have both such graduates as Kristen Bell, who is
okay.
Veronica Mars, I believe, and Matt Morrison,
Matt Morrison is,
Glee.
okay, yes.
And one of our grads is, well, I'm not sure she graduated, but she at least attended there for at least a semester, was Stephanie Germanata, that you know better as Lady Gaga.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
so
exciting.
we have a rather illustrious panel of alums that have come from there.
And what do you do? Is it a series of workshops or an actual school or both?
It's an actual school. I usually play for classes that are vocal tech classes, vocal rep classes, audition rep classes and stuff. I've musical directed a few other productions that the students have done there. The last one being Working, that we did at the Capo Opera Theater on the Upper East Side.
Right.
A few years back, well, more than a few years back now. But I've been so busy elsewhere that I haven't worked there as a musical director in a long, long while.
Okay. And Jimmy, where are you working now? Free on Long Island?
Yes, family residences and essential enterprises. I work in a theater program with differently abled people, as now is becoming the term, people, adults with developmental disabilities. And yeah, they learn. We have professional theater people and musicians and such who, you know, are teaching these people, getting them ready for work in this, you know, because it's a theater program. So that's what they're there for. And
That sounds really exciting, like just to give back.
we're now up to doing like 2 shows a year. We just finished in June. We did Les Mis, the school edition of Les Miserables, and we performed that at Bayway Art Center in East Islip, which is part of Broad Hollow Theater Company. We have a great deal with them. They just, I mean, it's a fundraiser when we do these shows, so they just let us have it for that.
That's great. And if our theater audience out there would like to get in contact with you guys, how can they do that?
Facebook.
Okay. So you can Facebook Paul Johnson and Jimmy. Email?
Sure.
Smoke signals?
Contact Paul. He'll get it. I'm working.
I'll pass the info along, definitely.
Okay, so Facebook Paul.
Exactly.
And what's next for you guys? What are you working on now?
Well, Free Synagogue of Flushing is doing Legally Blonde in November, so we're working on that right now.
Are you both working on that?
Nope, just me.
Okay, and what are you working on next?
I'm working at work.
Okay,
We've got a
just free.
variety show coming
Yeah.
up, and we have a jazz ensemble and a drum line who do a lot of performances, and I do
Okay.
tech stuff with them.
Awesome. So it sounds great. You guys are real busy and keeping busy. And
Definitely.
Good. Yeah. So thanks so much for joining us here today. It's been really a lot of fun having Paul Johnson, composer, and also keyboardist who plays everything keyboard, and also Jimmy O'Neill, actor, singer, not a waiter,
Always done tech theaters.
tech theaterist, et cetera, et cetera. So thank
Children's
you so
theater,
much. Children's theater, we
did
talked
that,
about that as well. So all of those things. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us.
pleasure.
And I'm going to ask you to play us out because I know that you've got a really good song. But before we do that, I'm going to remind everybody that you've been watching Community Theater